So far.
What's going on, y'all? My name is Christopher Life Willers, and this is the Stay Free Show. The basis, the reality of it all is, man, I get up here every single chance that I get because in 2003 I was sentenced to 144 years in prison. Um, and I should say for a crime where nobody was physically harmed, which kind of is a segue for what we're going to get into tonight. But before we do, I want to make sure I introduce my guest, my brother, my brethren. We had a chance to meet in Vegas. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, and I will say that I met him initially. I feel like when he was first starting his journey out here on social media, and I didn't know which way he's going to go with it. I didn't know if you're just going to be a storyteller, but I was really surprised and impressed when I seen you step into the advocacy role in the lane, and because a lot of people don't do that. But before I get to rambling, please introduce yourself formally, man, and let people know who you are. Aaron.
My name's Aaron Peila. I did 13 years, 8 months, 8 days straight, state and federal. Uh, when I got out, I definitely wanted to use my voice and my story to advocate, to shed some light on some of the things going on behind the wall, to network and to reach people that had similar visions and mindsets. And that's kind of what led me to Chris in the beginning.
Yeah, and I would say, like honestly, when I take a look out there, there's only a few of us that are using our digital platforms to really advocate. Like we're using it to bring awareness to certain situations. So shout out to anybody and everybody that's doing that. That's how I got started. I started with a Facebook live, and I was talking about my brother Jefferson Ellie, Poetic Life of Law. He's on year 27. Um, First time offender, no life was taken in the crime. It was nothing, they got to fighting. Um, Probably the best man I know in my entire life. And a big reason I changed my life. And from that live, we were able to get over 183,000 signatures in support of his release, which sit on the
Wow.
we were able to make it work, man. It sits on the governor's desk right now. New governor. We're hopeful. But today we're here to talk about somebody that's actually near and dear to you, which
Right.
Steve, we'll go ahead introduce Steve and let everybody know what we're getting ready to talk about because this is really serious.
Okay, so I mean, obviously, Steve's not the only one. As Chris has said, he's got people and loved ones that are behind that wall doing life without for a non-violent crime. So when I was in state, I was with this man. His name is Steve Barlett. Uh, Great dude. He was actually my barber. He's Italian as well, so we kind of, locked up on that, just talking about being Italian and then sports and, good conversation, which is hard to find sometimes in prison.
Hmm.
Uh, and I wondered why he was there because he just didn't fit that mold of a man that should be in a high security prison. Well, he had walked away from a camp. So because of that, his security level was high. Um, I ended up leaving. I paroled to the feds.
Explain. I'm gonna ask in case people don't know. Let them know what you mean when you say you walked away from a camp.
So he was doing time for he actually had a gambling addiction. He had taken scrap metal from his work, went and cashed it in at a scrap metal place, recycle place or whatever. Got some money. He got caught. It was embezzlement because it was the company he worked for. Well, the crime was so low level, he was in like a fire camp. No fences.
Right.
He was there helping fight fires, just basically an open area out in the wilderness. Well, he just walked away because of some family conflict that he had going on.
Right.
Uh, so they consider that an escape if you just walk away from those places because there is no fence. It's really not an escape, but it is because you're
Right.
dodging your sentence. So because of that, he was in the high security, and that's where I met him.
It's to me, and again, I'm just somebody that did 17 years in prison, but somebody that walked away. They didn't put their hands on a guard. They didn't get somebody's keys, and then the basis, which somebody says it's not justification, but man, when your family's going through things and you're sitting there, things start to go through your head. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? Especially if you're somebody that's usually the problem solver for the family or the main support. So I can only imagine in that moment. I just want to highlight that had to have been a battle. And again, now I'm thinking he got boosted all the way to a max. So what he goes from a camp with no fences, and he's a non-violent crimes. Now he's at a max yard. What's the difference between what does a max yard look like for the feds?
So this was in state actually. So
Oh, this
this
was
was in
state.
Nevada
Oh, that's
State.
right.
Yeah.
Excuse me. My apologies. Yep.
No, you're fine. Every man's natural inclination is to protect their family. So, uh, you know, we're never dodging accountability over here.
Mhm.
We all make mistakes. We understand there's punishment behind it.
Mhm.
He accepted that,
Yeah.
and that jumped his points up. He went to maximum security, razor wires, gun towers. There's all these different things weapons towers, excuse me. It's just a whole different environment where you got to watch yourself at all times. So, that was really probably a moment for him where he looked around and reflected, and, it probably sat heavy on his conscience. But that gambling addiction, it was still on his back. And when he was released, it continued.
Yeah.
We go into prison with these issues that go unresolved. Uh,
Absolutely.
Especially in Vegas, there's a lot of gambling addiction. So there definitely should be some type of programs in the prison that address those issues before people get out, because there is crime that's committed based on that addiction.
Absolutely.
Well, he got out, went back to it. He was horse betting, sports betting. He ended up robbing a bank. So he caught federal time for that. Well, I never thought I was going to see Steve again. So I get paroled to the feds because I already have a federal case. When I get to the feds, I'm on a USP yard. This is years down the road because I end up catching another case, fighting that in the county for a few years, going
Mm.
back into the system. And when I get to the USP, the high security yard, I hit the tier and there's Steve, the last person I would have ever thought to see on a federal USP yard.
Right.
So because of that walkaway still on his jacket, when he goes into the federal system for this bank robbery, which was a note, uh, nobody's hurt. There wasn't any kind of crazy situation. It was just hand a note, let me get the money, whatever, walks out and leaves. But because of that, he goes to a USP, and that's where I see him, which was crazy. I couldn't believe it. But
Right.
as you know, Chris, when you're in these high security yards, you can't hide behind anything, because that stress and that tension and that pressure that comes with that life is going to expose who you are.
Absolutely.
So, being on two max yards with Steve, I feel like I know this man pretty well. He's not even capable of violence. Shouldn't have even been on those yards. But here he is. Uh, he does his 10 years in the feds and then goes back to the state where he has the violation because he was on parole for that walk away and the embezzlement. So when he goes back in front of the judge thinking, okay, it's just a violation, I just gave him 10 years, they're going to release me. They give him life without. And
I want to stop right there. That's where first I'm gonna come back to the life without, but I need everybody also to understand the addiction piece. Um, it is a disease, and it does have an influence on the decisions that you make, and it has to be addressed. That's something we're fighting for to be proactively addressed, so individuals stop. It's one of the main reasons that individuals go to prison paired with mental illness. They typically there's dual diagnosis on the two, but I wanted to highlight that because a lot of people say, "Oh, people are just choosing to be addicted to something, whether it's gambling, whether it's a substance, whatever it is. A disease is a disease, and it's not always just easy to let that go." And then I just want to go back to gave him 10 and gives him life. So I'm just so I'm clear 'cause I'm not the brightest light bulb in the ceiling. No, right? I'm because I'm
it
tripping.
just seems crazy,
I'm
doesn't it?
tripping though. Well, no violent because I didn't hear you at one time say he ever got locked up for putting his hands on somebody or tussling with somebody. Or
Nothing
I
like
haven't heard
that.
you say he got in trouble for even threatening or yelling at somebody. I didn't hear you say that one time. So how is the judge able to? Is it that's just how much time was over it? Because
Uh,
somebody might be asked or wondering that.
okay, yeah. No, I definitely need to clarify that because that's going to be a valid question. So, because of him having the embezzlement charges, it
Mm.
gave him strikes in Nevada. The walkaway, strikes. The bank robbery, strikes. So when he went back in front of him, they said, "Okay, you're a habitual offender. uh, and we're going to give you life without, because I think he had cashed in that copper a handful of times, so each one of those was considered a felony. Uh, and then, like I said, the walkaway, and then there was like 7 banks, so they're all considered separate felonies. So it's a habitual that they hit him with, even though, it's one crime, two crime, it is three, the third is in federal, but they still use that as a way of habitually hitting him with the life without parole. That was their justification. Like you said, nothing violent. Even inside the prison where we were at and violence was prevalent, almost required, he was still able to navigate that without having any kind of issues or any kind of violence in the system, which is tough. I mean, I don't even know how he did it, to be honest with you, but he did. And they're still throwing away his life right now as if he's just a menace and a threat to everybody around him and the society he can't be a part of.
I've got to ask this question because I know people are going to want to know: is does Nevada, or where he's incarcerated, locked up, is there a possibility of parole?
When they give you life without, it's life without.
Life
So
without. Oh, life
yeah,
without. In Virginia, and the reason I in Virginia, guys used to always say life. I think it was a net. You could 40 years, guys would say was life. So I think that
okay.
what you're saying, just that's it. No chance at all. 3 strikes. And I know individuals will say with the robbery, but even with that, nobody, nobody's
Nobody
going.
was hurt. Yeah,
Right.
nobody was hurt.
I don't want
I
you to emphasis
there's
on that.
always going to be an argument, which I understand. I'm open. I'm all ears to hear it.
Right.
But at the end of the day, there are people who are harming the helpless,
Yeah. Let's be.
defenseless,
Yeah.
and they're not getting as severe as penalty as Steve's getting, who's never harmed anybody.
I know
You know,
individuals, and they'll tell you, some of the guys that are with me, and they're remorseful, but they've taken a life
right,
in their home. They were
right,
given a release date. They had a number, and for anybody that's saying, "Well, yeah, the robbery," nobody got physically harmed. Emotional, mental trauma, if that was in the mix, is a real thing. We get that. We understand that. But to say that somebody should sit in prison for life when no life was taken out, unless it has something to deal with a kid, something like that.
right,
You know what I'm saying? But for something
right.
like this, what's the purpose? Why not rehabilitate? Why not offer a program, especially when you're saying this guy never got into any physical altercations? That's a decision you make.
Right. No, and that shows the character of who this man is. Because, like I said, in those places, violence is the only language people listen to. So for him to avoid that and navigate through that 10 years he was in the USP, he never leveled down. They kept him in the USP the whole, I think he did nine on his 10. So as of right now, he's been locked up for about 12 years, 11, 12 years. So but he, like I said, he was there. They can look at his jacket, which I'm sure they have, but for whatever reason, this judge is just adamant on the fact that it doesn't matter what the Nevada State Supreme Court is telling him. He's going to do everything in his power to make sure Steve doesn't come home. Uh, and he's had, this leads into that. So since he got the life without, which in Nevada, you said there's life, which is 20, but life without is just that's it. So he's been fighting through the appeal process. And Nevada State Supreme Court, they sent it back to the lower court and said it was abuse of discretion and told the judge to fix it. And the judge was not trying to hear it. But, we both thought, like, okay, the Nevada State Supreme Court is telling him that this is unjust. So they're going to fix it. Well, he went back in front of the same judge and he refused to do it. And he said, I'm going to give you life without for numerous reasons. I'm denying this." And that was it. That was the only reasons, for numerous reasons, without giving any. So he's still fighting through it and
Oh,
went
he
back
never
to,
listed the numerous reasons on
no,
top
he
of that.
never gave a numerous reason. He just said for numerous reasons, and then just kept going. So, Steve was, I can only imagine the thoughts and emotions in that moment. You know, I, I mean, the first time he said life without had to just be devastation. but going back and feeling like you have a fighting chance, like they said, do the right thing, and for him to do it again, it's got to be deflating. And I talked to him. He tries to remain positive. I know it's tough for him. He's in the dog program, and that helps. But
which means he's been staying out of trouble, which we already know, but that
right,
verifies it.
yeah, for sure, he hasn't been in any trouble. He's just trying to take what little joys that he can while he's in there, because that's all you can do.
I want to come back to where he is mentally, but I want to go back, double back to that one more time. I'm like processing. I'm happy, whatever. I got a newborn. I've been changing diapers since 3 in the morning, so my brain's catching up. But again, I'm just sitting here. So the Supreme Court of Nevada tells the judge, you got to fix it.
Right. They let him know like this was an abuse of power.
How can the judge? I mean, I guess legally he could, but and I'm gonna say this, and if anybody, I don't want this to sound the wrong way, but how can you not feel like that's vindictive? When you got a
Right.
whole Supreme Court telling you, like, what's the basis? Like, you don't even have to take the responsibility of fixing it because they're telling you
Right.
to fix it. But I guess
No, there's always that ego and pride thing. So, as you said, he could have said, "Okay, I have to swallow my pride, let this go. I think I've, taught him at least a valuable lesson of what I can do or what the powers can do." And just gave him, whatever. He's already been in 11, 12 years, time served or a couple years. I don't know. He had the opportunity, and for whatever reason, you know, I think these judges, I've always tried to wrap my mind around what they could be thinking and feeling in those moments because I've seen and heard about it so many times. Uh, and it just blows my mind. I can't understand it. How in your mind you can justify doing that to another human life.
right,
What gives you that power, authority, or do you think about it at night? Does it ever cross your mind after the fact or throughout the day? Like I always wonder, because some of these judges base their careers on I'm going to give X amount of
no
years
question,
out during my career,
no question.
and not I'm going to give justice to the community.
Yeah. I've and I don't there were horror stories, I'm sure. I hope none of them are true, but there was always a story at the jail about the judge that told the guy walk to the window and count the trees outside, and that's how many years he gave him. And it might have just been a fictional story, something made up, but at the end of the day, what I need everybody to understand is when you walk into a courtroom, you stand in front of a judge, it's not a set guideline of how he sentences you. And on top of that, if he got into an argument with his old lady the night before, he might have brought that attitude in there and it's not feeling as lenient. I've
Right,
literally I've heard people walk into the courtroom say, I'm in a good mood today. Somebody going, I've heard this. I'm in a good mood today. Somebody going home. So what do you say when you're not in a good mood is what I would ask.
right,
And then I just gotta go back to this. He's fighting through mentally through each stage of this thing. Like some people during a certain leg of the race, they give up and they tap out and whatever that looks like for that person. But
right,
he's in a dog program. Anybody that doesn't know if you're in a dog program, you're staying out of trouble. I couldn't get in a dog program. I tried.
right.
They
No,
told
he
they told
he
me no.
tells me he's like, because he loves handball, so he's like, nah, I've been out playing handball. Where he's at, they actually have weights still, which is rare. So he's, still working out. He's still in the law library trying to figure this out. He's determined. I can't see him ever giving up hope. Just he's that type of person. He's cut from that type of cloth that he's going to remain positive. He definitely has his down days.
Of
Sometimes he'll
course.
call, and I can hear it in his voice. And I try to elevate the energy and the conversation as much as I can. But it's not always roses and sunshine for sure. I'm sure he gets in some dark places at times,
Yeah.
wondering if this is it. and that's not something that he deserves. Definitely the type of person he is, he can be a positive contribution to society, uh, and use his voice and his story and his abilities, his ambition, his outlooks, his energy, and really do some good in this world.
Yeah, I think especially when you got guys that are out here actively doing good things and are vouching. One thing that I'll say, and I will give credit to out there in VA, like the parole board, they pay attention. Like if one guy makes parole or gets a chance or gets a pardon or something like that, they may go back to the same group of people and say, who else in there is working hard? There's that type of communication open.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. It's not always
Wow.
a guarantee, right? But at least somebody's asking. They're like, okay, these
Right.
guys are advocates. They came home from who else should we pay? And it's nice to at least they're paying attention, right? Or they're asking.
Right.
Um, but here we go. He doesn't make the decision to fix it. Are there any other, I mean, what are the potential lanes of relief? Is there anything? Is it at this point, is it a can he file for a pardon? Is it just trying to get back in court? Is it getting back with the
Uh,
Supreme Court?
so he's not at that point where pardon would be the only option,
Okay.
which I'm grateful for, and
Right.
so is he. He's still so because the judge didn't necessarily fix it or give reasons why, he opened the door for another appeal to the Nevada State Supreme Court. So he's filed the paperwork. His attorney has. It's being sent back to the Nevada Supreme Court. Hopefully, the last time it only took him like 4 months to decide on it. Hopefully, it goes to those same judges, that same panel. I don't know if that's how it works, and I don't think anybody does. I don't think
Right.
they let you know exactly the process for them. So we're waiting on that. That was about 3 weeks ago that it happened, a month ago. So in the next 3 to 4 months, hopefully we'll have an answer from them. And then the next step is the Supreme Court, United States Supreme Court, which is, even harder
Right.
to get your case heard. And then after that, I think the final step is trying to get a pardon. So,
Yeah.
he's got a couple more moves to make. And, I'm just trying to bring awareness to his case. I've had some attorneys reach out to me. I've
Listen.
put him in contact with them, also with Amir.
Mhm.
Shout out to Amir for taking
Check
an
them out.
interest in the case. I appreciate it, and Steve does as well. So, I'm just trying to get it out there as much as I can so there's some type of awareness behind what's going on.
What can people do to support? Is there anything that can be done? Can they write letters? Can they message you? Or what can be done if somebody wants to get involved in this thing?
Yeah, you can message me. I would have to ask Steve what exactly he feels like can be done. Uh, I'm not really sure. I'm just rooting and I'm bringing awareness at this point.
Mhm.
Uh, I'm not an attorney, so I don't know all the steps or the avenues that can be taken. Uh, but if somebody else has an idea or understands the judicial process a little better with the appeals, please let me know. I'm all ears. I'm trying to get information, trying to get some help. Same with Steve. Like I said, I've linked in with a couple people who are attorneys who's asked me, yeah, give him my email address and I can go back and forth with him and see what his case has going on. So, there's any help, any kind of awareness, I'm all for it. And so is he. So, you can reach out to me on my any one of my social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Uh you can get with me, DM me on any of them.
Now I want to ask you really quick because and thank you for sharing, a brief, glimpse of Steve's story. And I think anybody should pay attention to it, right? Because we need to know the laws and how they can be used against us and for us at
Right.
times. It's a process, but awareness is key. And if it's a precautionary tale, it's just to not go down that path. But if you're there to keep fighting, and if you can be like Steve to maintain, a level head, and
Right.
still because I got to go back. I know guys that once they feel like they're not going home, they turn into animals, you
Yeah.
know. And to hear that he's still maintaining the level head, people need to know that when he comes home, he's going to do the same thing. If he if he's staying in
Right.
a peaceful place, staying out of trouble, programming, being productive, he's probably in there mentoring when he's cutting hair. Because I was a barber in there, you
Right.
know what I'm saying? You probably want him out here because he's gonna
Right.
help. I want to ask you really quick before we wrap this, man. Loved Ones Coalition.
Right.
I
Super important.
Yeah,
You know,
super one important. Break it down.
I know, you and Amir have been great with us. We appreciate you guys always just
Rocking
shedding
with
some light on what we have going on. So I'm a part of a nonprofit. I'm on the board of directors. Christine Amador, she's the director and the founder. It's a prison watchdog community for the federal prison system. We're trying to branch out and definitely network and connect with different state systems, but as of right now, our focal point is the federal system.
it. Hmm.
We have weekly reports. People who are inside and also have loved ones outside, they contact us. They let us know what's going on, policy breaks, human rights violations, anything that just needs to be fixed or have a light shined on it because uh, obviously the prison system is broken in a lot of ways.
Hmm.
But the only way to fix it is to bring attention to the people who have some type of say so. Well, Christine has been able to be connected with people in Washington who she weekly reports to. So, a lot of the situations that are happening in these prisons, now people in Washington are fully aware, which is great because they're trying to help uh, in what ways they can.
Hmm.
Nobody's power is absolute in the situation. We understand that. We try to be patient and they're great, because at times, we can get out there because we do have a level of empathy because we've been behind those walls. We understand what they're going through, and it's frustrating to see it. There's a lot of good dudes and females, and 96% of people are coming home. We want to see them come home whole, mentally, physically, emotionally. There's a lot of damage and a lot of trauma that goes on behind those walls through the judicial process and into the prison system. We would like for them to have a fighting chance, to have some type of life when they get out with some success and some fulfillment.
Yeah, I think it's major. I'm gonna be honest again. I don't know where I feel like I'm on the same planet, but sometimes I'm not because it's like all of a sudden you guys popped up. I was like, yo, they doing real work. At first, I'm so green. I'm like, is it just some guys from the feds and they just go live? And then I'm like, yo, they doing real advocacy work. Like, hold
Yeah,
on. And then I gotta
yeah,
shout out everyone over there, man. Y'all invited us, to take a trip down there to Texas. And I've been trying to get connected just to go into the federal penitentiaries to talk about trauma and do some things. So hey man, I'm excited to support you guys and stay connected. And anybody that's been impacted by the federal system or state, you never know. I still reach out to Aaron. Um, and especially if you don't know how to necessarily advocate, it's always good to get connected to advocates. We learn from each other. None of us know. We learn as we go, and it's a fight. It's ongoing. The landscape changes, but the more the merrier.
no
Um,
doubt, for
and somebody,
sure. Strength in numbers and stronger together.
yeah,
That's how we look at it.
Loved Ones Coalition, Nita. Loved Ones Coalition. Somebody's asking the name of the organization. Somebody said state versus Fed. No, no, no. We are state with Fed over here.
Right, right.
We ain't no
No, we're
verses. We
right. No, we're together right
yeah,
now.
yeah, 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 yeah.
We're meshing slowly
Yeah,
but
yeah,
surely. It's all
yeah.
gonna be one.
You know what I said, and I continue to say this, and I believe this, and it's not a religious thing, but I use a term that's used in religion. But I believe wholeheartedly that a revival is going to come from the prison, man, because it's the people in the prisons, it's the men and women there that they can make the change. And when we all get it,
Right.
man,
I mean, to be able to go through that level of adversity, uh, I always say that it puts people coming out a leg ahead of everybody else out here because, it instills some type of drive and gratitude in you that most of these people could never understand because they haven't been in those dark places they weren't supposed to come back from. So prison just breeds that hunger and just the gratitude, and just, you walk out into this world with brand new eyes. It's hard to explain unless you've been there, but there's so many people back there who deserve that second chance and can do big things and be major contributors in a positive way out here in this world.
Yeah, no question. Some of the most, if not probably the most successful people I know, they got felonies, they got convictions, they done did time, they got prison tattoos, and I'm not even being sarcastic. I've watched brothers and sisters come home. I was just interviewing a brother yesterday, Dr. Barber, Dr. Travis Barber, founder of One Mo. He's the Georgia state of Georgia Goodwill ambassador rep. I can't even say he did 10
Okay,
years.
okay,
Yeah,
fancy. He got a fancy
right,
title.
honorary doctorate, right?
Right.
10 years in prison, and
Nah, nah,
was one of them ones.
respect.
Right, was one of them ones in there. Came home, started working with the youth, hands down, the young men out here, young boys. But that's just one example. And man, when we keep waking up, y'all, when we come home from prison and we keep waking up and understanding who we are and what we possess now because of what we've been through, we cannot be stopped. I mean
Right.
that. Um, Aaron, we're gonna do a part two and put you on the spot because we didn't get to talk about
Okay.
half the stuff we was gonna talk about.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm
Um,
here for it.
Yep. So we get you rescheduled. Everybody, make sure you be on the lookout or get connected with Aaron and the Loved Ones Coalition if you want to get involved or support. And also, when we're speaking about Steve, um, and just asking the question, I'll ask it: do you really think a man who never harmed somebody physically should be doing life in prison? That's a question that should not just be asked about Steve, but so many people that are sitting behind prison walls right now, where there can be an alternative way at sentencing. Like Aaron said, we're not ducking. We understand we're accountable. Steve is. He's done prison time. Maybe some programs. Maybe
Yeah.
home supervision if it's that serious. But life in prison without the possibility right now, no. Aaron, what's your final takeaway or words before we get up out of this one?
I just want everybody to be aware, aware of their surroundings, of their decisions, and at the same time, just be grateful. It's when you talk to somebody who has life without it, puts life in a different perspective. And I hope nobody else has to do that to gain that perspective. But at the same time, you have to understand that life is precious and you have to cherish it. So just be aware, if you guys have any tips, pointers, information, or even just positive vibes, reach out. Also, same with Loved Ones Coalition on Facebook and Instagram, and Christine Amador with TikTok. And I appreciate everybody who's in here. Thank you for giving me a minute of your time.
Get connected, y'all. Make sure you support. And if you can't find them for whatever reason, just message me and I'll make sure you guys get connected. Thank you, Aaron, for hopping up here. And being, I'll say it on my platform, a real prison content creator. One that's not glorifying the negativity. You know what I'm saying? One that's
I
not just doing.
appreciate it.
Yeah, I can tell the difference, and I don't. I'll say it out loud. Pay attention to those of us that are trying to educate. We might make you laugh every now and then, but man, we trying to tell y'all the truth because we don't want
Yeah.
you to go there, man. We want y'all to stay free. Until next time, I'll be back up here Thursday, barring any unforeseen circumstances. I'll be with Amir. Shout out to the good brother, man. Second Lap Media, as we are on City 5, I think, of 7 in 20 days. After that, we got Philly. And I think it's back to Arizona, then Ohio, something like that. But we appreciate everybody that reached out and is reaching out and it's giving us an opportunity to come tell the stories that matter.